All right, nice to see everyone. 𝗕𝗏, you're in your new place. Did you
Yeah.
want to give everyone your exact address?
Yes, I'll 100% do that. Honestly, with the way this area is located, even if I did, they probably wouldn't find.
Okay.
Like it's one of those things where even when you get packages delivered, they basically, for whatever reason, decided to build two different complexes with different addresses, but with the same unit numbers, like one road after the other. So, for example, if there's two 50s on parallel streets, which makes absolutely no sense. Right, but so just hoping no one gets any of my important purchases.
A lot of Amazon packages not being
delivered. Exactly.
Yeah, beautiful. And this is my last office hours in this address. I will be, unless something goes terrible, I'll be at my new place next week. So very excited about that. Lauren, you're living in the trees, so you're good to go. It doesn't really matter. But really appreciate you being here. I'm 𝗤𝗏. I'm the CEO of 𝗕liche. We're coming up toward the end of February, which is a short month. You feel it. You feel it when you're like building a business. You feel it when you're doing this stuff. But it's been a great month here. Excited to share a little bit about that, and maybe next week as we look back on the month. But I'll let you guys do a little intro, and we'll hop into some topics here.
My name is Lauren. I'm the accountant here, and it's a good thing like February is so short because it's also like the coolest month of the year. So it's great to get it out of the way, but I guess we don't really have to worry about that either in our comfy offices at home.
Hey everyone, 𝗕𝗏 here, digital strategist here at 𝗕𝗏. And yeah, it's been a quick fire, rapid fire month. I literally don't know how it's the end of the month already, but it is what it is. And just looking forward to having some good conversation.
A couple topics here, but maybe I didn't really ask this morning, Lauren, but how are you feeling about this content creation? We talked about this a little bit last week, process that you've been shoved into. Any thoughts, any feedback, any sort of realizations as you're doing it of what we're trying to do with this? Maybe just a little bit of insight into that.
So far, I think it's pretty simple. Like I really haven't put too much research into it. I feel like there's going to be a lot more like researching and like thinking about how to present things as opposed to just like slapping things down as far as like what 𝗕𝗏 wanted me to put. So it's definitely an investment of time that I'm not really sure where we'll find for that. I was kind of under the impression that I was mostly just putting together like titles and like creating actual pages, and then like 𝗕𝗏 was actually the one who's going to be like writing all the actual, like doing all the research, then writing out the pages to be a bit more specific. But then I'm also thinking like maybe specificity is actually kind of counterintuitive for this type of work. Maybe you kind of want things to be like open and broad to catch as many users as possible. So there's also something else I want to explore too, as far as like artificial intelligence. There was one, I think it was 𝗕ause that I posted. You guys had also like brought up like a month ago as well, but it's just like automatically writing all these posts, these content for us fairly cheaply too. But I'm curious if you guys have like tested around with that. Have you thought about that, or you kind of got into the mindset that like it has to be like written by a person in order for it to be effective?
So, I mean, we've had a couple conversations around using AI content and AI copywriting to kind of improve or increase our output. I think the biggest issue normally is where this roadblock for us right now isn't necessarily the content creation itself. To a degree is definitely a bit of a roadblock, but it's just more what does our pipeline and production look like, right? Because the way indexation works generally is once you actually create a page, it doesn't actually get indexed or start ranking really for a couple of months, depending on your site authority and a variety of number of factors. But the idea with what we're currently doing with this kind of MVP idea is we kind of get the URL structure up, we get the page just kind of indexed, and then once that's up, obviously we tweak the pages to be a bit unique and a bit, not junk, but the whole idea is we're just testing out to see, can we go out with this very baseline page that has, let's say, very minimal, it's not as in-depth as we would like it to be, but can we see some traction on these pages for kind of these important terms that we're trying to rank for? And then, throw some cash and throw like a writer to actually improve the content on that page. And, I'm of two minds of it. Like I'm always one to just try to put out the best thing that we possibly can when we do launch something. But the flip side to that is, if we can kind of validate the need for, let's say, a slightly larger workforce or slightly larger team on the content production side, then, even just from a business perspective, it probably becomes easier to, put forward a presentation or be like, hey, this is why I think we need X, dollars to put towards this initiative, more or less. So for now, it's quite rudimentary, but the problem with, to go back to your initial question with AI copywriting, it's interesting. I've followed a couple of people and a couple of sites that have, these kind of SEO experiments, people who like their entire job is just doing experiments with SEO and, trying to figure out Google's algorithm. And a lot of them basically saw a lot of success when it first came out. So the first kind of 6 months to 8 months that these GPT-3 tools were on the market, there was a lot of success. But then over time, Google has basically, I guess, gotten even smarter about identifying auto-generated content, more or less, and is slowly, penalizing and reducing the traffic that a lot of these sites and pages get as well. So that's just my big hesitancy with using it. Like, I think they're great for, if you just want to brainstorm, like to use it as a brainstorming tool. Like if you want generic headlines, if you want generic like paragraphs, right? Like it's almost like placeholder text. But I think long term, you actually end up paying for junk content that you usually need to rewrite anyways at the end of the day. And it could have been better because I think Tyler and I tested it out, I want to say about 6 months ago, something like that. And neither of us were particularly impressed by it. But maybe it's better now. I mean, they did get sued or, well, cease and desist from Disney, right? So they had to change their name, which is kind of unfortunate. But I guess when you've caught Disney's eye, that's pretty good.
You're doing something right, maybe. There's also been some like recent news about Google who's saying that they're just like not indexing all pages anymore. Like they're just like, unless your site's good quality, we're not going to waste our servers on your pages. So some really interesting discussion that came out of that. And, it's like, basically like, you can't even do anything about that page that didn't get indexed. You just have to go back and improve the rest of your site. And then maybe we'll deem that, good enough so that we'll go and crawl that page that hasn't been crawled yet. So it's like, Google really laying down some law around some of these things. And, it's interesting when the messaging is like, just make the changes, make your site better and wait a couple months. And there's people out there like, we don't have a couple months, where we want to see these the positive impacts now. So it's interesting. I think, there's been before sort of these AI ones, GPT-3, there was these things called like spin rewriters, which would, they would just rotate words out to try to make it completely original. Same thing happened with that. I used to love using those things. And then I realized they were garbage and would penalize your site in the end. But everyone always wants the quick way to win this stuff. And sometimes it's not so quick. You need some people helping out and putting original content together.
Because interesting on that front, right? Like, I think there's a place for this GPT-3 creation, content creation, but I think when I don't know if you've heard of I think it's Contentfly, Contentfly. So they're like a, I think YC startup, but they're actually they're human writers, right? So you basically pay. I mean, it's actually quite pricey. It's for 4,000 words a month. You get it's $300 for 4,000 written words a month. So that's 3 articles, maybe like 3 kind of high or 1 really high quality article, right? And I think the fact that this this exists, especially for more technical topics, like I think GPT-3 is great for e-commerce because a lot of product descriptions and stuff are fairly basic. The kind of ways people describe shoes and the data sets they have describing things like shoes are like abundant, right? So when it comes to, like, it's very easy for these GPT-3 engines to kind of create, I guess, pretty good content that is related to, let's say, a product. But I find when it comes to more technical language and more technical things, there might be a bit of a limitation on that front, just to get something that doesn't read super poorly. We can definitely test it out again. I guess it just depends on our end goal there and whether we can actually, like, for example, how much was that one? Let me just see. I think it's like, if you want 20,000 words a month, it's $30. But from what I remember, it's basically, if you don't like what it wrote, reusing those credits, like, it doesn't just like start over. So basically, let's say you actually need to spin the system 5 times to get something that you like, instead of 250 words already before even getting something that you like. It's you've used 1250 credits or whatever. And I find that that's really how they've kind of gamified and added. That's their growth engine, right? It's, oh, like, you didn't like this first one, here's the next option, but it's going to cost you, essentially. So pros and cons. I think if we can build this kind of human system in a way that works for us, I do think it'll generally speaking, lead to better results. But always, I mean, it feeds into our topic, one of our topics for today, just experimenting and figuring out what are different ways we can build out our content, like our conversion rate optimization, and how do we create new opportunities for people to find our site, find our product, and learn what we do, and obviously at the end of the day get them to actually sign up and test us out. And hopefully we're solving a meaningful problem for them as well. We don't really want people paying for something that they don't necessarily use.
Yeah. Do you find it beneficial to have like maybe a mix between content writers and then AI? Like maybe you're having like the AI write out the actual all the copy, and then as opposed to paying for a write, you pay more so for like an editor to actually go through it and clean it up. Maybe it's kind of like more of a balance, as well as price. Like you take like, what was it, like $30 for automated versus like 300 for a human. Kind of find like the middle ground there, and get like a lot of curated content.
It's definitely something we can test out, I think. And I mean, if we're going to expense it, I'm more than happy to try. But it's like that is definitely an avenue to consider, where it's like, let's say we do a test run with 20 pages, and it's like, okay, here's the 20 AI created pages. Now we just find someone to edit it. But then the kind of flip side to that is, does that editing process almost become just rewriting, right? Instead of just simple editing, which will end up costing us, I guess, the cost of the software plus the human cost at the end of the day. So definitely something for us to evaluate, and something we can evaluate.
And for testing too, maybe do like 2 pages instead of 20 pages.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
We heard this early on with transcription, automated transcription, and when our transcript editor wasn't good enough, because they would say, like, it's easier for me to just transcribe from scratch personally than edit all these errors in the automated transcription. That was like a pretty consistent thing that we heard. I just thought, quickly just pull this up in reference. I thought this was sort of funny. First of all, 4,000 words, but like there's no decrease of price.
Yeah,
It just stacks.
keeps going.
It just stacks 300 every single
I mean,
time.
it's been working for them, but it's I'm still trying to think. Like they must be outsourcing a lot of their writing.
For
'cause-
sure, it's the only way to
Yeah.
do it. There's a couple, then you can see overage. So then once you go over, you're then caught, at 12 cents per word,
Yeah.
which starts to add up. I used the 𝗏 in the past, and it's that same thing. You pay for quality, and when you don't pay well, you don't get quality. Not that I'm saying that 𝗏 is not. You can actually pay. You can go up in advanced, and they've got a really beautifully streamlined system. But a lot of people are trying to take advantage of, say, something like the 𝗏 or 𝗦𝗏𝗃 or some of these AI tools to just pump out content as quick as possible. 2003, that really could be very positive impact for you, but things have changed a lot in these search engines, specifically obviously Google have gotten much more intelligent and have much better comprehension of what quality is and what a good site experience is. And I've been on many pages before, but I'm like, some robot wrote this, or this was definitely not spent much time on it. You leave the page, and that's a signal that the content wasn't good enough. So that's not a good signal. Okay. Any other thoughts around this, Lauren? It wasn't an official topic on our docket today, but it's here.
Okay. What does just back to 𝗏𝗏𝗃, I'm just a bit confused. Are they a software company? It seems more like they're like a talent agency kind of thing. And like I thought 𝗏𝗏𝗏𝗃 was just focused on like software companies too.
It looks like they do. I think the software side is their AI matching. So
okay.
that they basically, like, based on, I guess, what you select, like topic, maybe years of experience, it'll match you with writers. So I guess almost like the flip of like, Upwork or Fiverr, where you put a proposal in and then you get a variety of applicants, right? I think here their value offerings seem to be, okay, we vet these writers, that's number one. We build this database, we curate this database more or less.
Hmm.
And then our system will basically keep churning up recommendations for you for, if you need someone that is super skilled in talking about, potato farming, right? Like our machine will find you someone that has 20 years experience potato farming,
Yeah.
right?
It's like another full-fledged company built off of Airtable.
More or less.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people claiming that they're software companies. And, they are software companies, or they're at least technology enablers, but they're really just connecting humans to humans. And in life, and a lot of the work that's going on here, like some of these advancements, whether it's content writing or even transcription, like we've seen, it's like technology is not quite there, and so humans are needed. So intelligent matching makes sense. Maybe a little bit flimsy. We'll take it. We'll follow, see how they're doing. We're supporting them. I like anyone who gives people jobs and hopefully create some good content along the way. So, we'll keep tracking ours for now, Lauren. You're helping us create content, and hopefully we've got a couple other people helping us. And the goal is, again, how can we get to, I guess to segue into this topic of sort of this idea of conversion rate optimization, which is, first, when we started to speak, very hard to do conversion rate optimization when only one person would sign up a week. It was very hard to figure out like what's working, what's not. We have no signals. There's no information for us to, just understand what to improve, what's not working, what's working. Now today we see much higher, volume, and it's allowing us to understand what we should be focusing on or where there are gaps in the business. And I think a pretty consistent drive here for us is how do we make this funnel better? And funnel is a very sales sort of crappy way to look at it, but it's really like someone has a problem, they find out about Speak, and we create an amazing onboarding experience and just the product experience as a whole that makes them want to continue using Speak. So that's sort of the journey that we're on right now. We've seen some success over the last, I would say, 45, 60 days. And some of that things were simple around just, again, sort of giving this personalized offer plan where people feel like they have more control in the creation of the relationship that we have. There are other little things like just like decreasing price for the per minute that have also shown less friction and allowed us to sort of boost up that conversion rate. And the next step that we're now asking ourselves, or what I think we should always be asking ourselves, is what's next? What are these other things that can move the needle on it? And just one last element to add to this is we didn't probably format it as properly as we should, but building this as sort of like a hypothesis driven approach. So when we did the personalized plan, we did it in a very informal way where we just sort of thought like, this feels like if we offered maybe a personalized plan where they only get what they truly need, and because of that they actually get discounts because they're not paying for everything. We think that would make impact on people signing up, and we were right. I think as we move forward, what we're now trying to do is say, where are these friction points in conversion, in people actually subscribing to the paid plan? What's the pain that they're facing? What's the impact that it is for us? And then what's the development or the workload for our team to make that change, to make it happen? And then just like we do those OKRs, it sort of helps us prioritize those. And hopefully we also have maybe a goal that we have in mind. So, maybe just as a quick brainstorm that can be happening here, but also just maybe any thoughts that you guys have around this process, anything you've seen working, anything that you'd love to test, any hypotheses that you have based on everything we're seeing.
How have you found the actual process for getting these custom plans uploaded? Like, do you have like a lot of work on your side to like manipulate the actual account?
The first ones were tough, like not tough. It was both. There was the process of creating them, and then there was more actually, I would say, like the cognitive weight of customizing it, just like making decisions. Now I found like a pretty nice baseline of like a discount that we want to give. And even though we've allowed people to completely customize it, we're seeing some pretty consistent patterns in what people are asking for. And just as one example, like they want more hours included in their plans per month than what we've built in our pre-built packages. Or for example, they're not using the transcription and analysis. They're actually focused on, say, text analysis. And so you can actually remove that cost for them and from us. So those are those are simple patterns that I'm seeing, but it's been pretty easy and streamlined. And 𝗲𝗏 helped me build out a really nice sort of template that sort of also compares, here's what your plan would be if you didn't customize it all, and here's what it is now. And often when we configure this all together, it ends up being 50, almost 50% discount sometimes on a monthly plan, and then even a little bit more on an annual plan, which is obviously a really nice incentive for people to want to proceed.
Mm-hmm. And it also helps quite a bit with the one onboarding challenge that we're facing of not 100% knowing exactly like why people are signing up to. Like you kind of put a checklist, and you can just say, you can ask, and hopefully they'll put it into an actual answer there. But a lot of the times, like there's no reason for them to put an answer in. It kind of just helps us. But like with this way, we can actually understand like why they're using the software, specifically because they're going to choose like what they want to use. So that's a lot easier for us to track there.
Even things like job title, like we ask and they're happy to fill out. So we talked about this the last couple of times, but like there's more questions that we ask, but because there's an incentive for them to actually fill out this form and get this offer, they seem much more willing to do it. And just one insight I thought was interesting the other day was I sort of displayed transcription minutes as per minute and per hour, just so they could like sort of see with their mind of like how to format it. And one of the feedbacks I got was like, am I paying for both of those? Basically, like they were confused. They thought they were paying both per minute and per hour. I was just trying to help them sort of understand what it would be. So now I'm only doing per hour, and it makes the whole thing simpler. So now we have a little bit of insight into maybe there's a better way to display our pricing across everything from this process, which is great.
Yeah, and I think we've been quite good about thinking up an idea, testing it out, but then I think I want us to like discuss this as well. But kind of this, what does this review and iteration step from there look like, and when do we do that? When does it make sense to do it? Does it end up being like a schedule thing? Do we maybe end up, okay, every second week of the month, we, review all the kind of experiments or tests we tried out, kind of do a quick overview of them, and then basically nix the ones that aren't really showing any progress, and keep improving the ones that are showing at least some signs of success. Because what's great about this, like the personalized plan, for example, is the offer and the process by which we've gone about giving this offer. I mean, as of now, is fairly rudimentary. Right, like there is still a bit of like manual work that goes in from your end that I'm sure if we kind of just set aside a bit of time to build in, we could probably just completely or close to completely automate it. But it's once again, okay, so if we evaluate and you're like, okay, I have, I don't mind at this, let's say at this stage, taking the 5 minutes extra that it takes me to put this together, then we can leave it and move on to the next one. But if you're like, oh, now we're getting 10 requests a day, that I'm losing an hour of my time putting these together. How do we kind of remove that, reduce that hour for me, more or less? And I think maybe the way, maybe for us to schedule it in, come up with, okay, here are 3 things I think we should test, pool them. Basically, I don't know if we want to vote on it, but be like, okay, I think these are the 3, but let's say we have 10 total. These are the 3 we think will have the highest impact. We're going to keep this experiment going for, we'll have a 2-week check-in, just, quick update. And then at the month point, we'll actually review like hard KPIs and like hard stats that actually give us a better idea of how the thing is doing. Then once we do that final review, do we improve or stop doing it, essentially? And obviously certain initiatives, I think we need to be also aware that not everything will work on a 1-month timeline. Some things might be, we'll need to test out for 3 months before we actually know whether it's any good or not. But generally speaking, I do think we can maybe be a bit more data driven and efficient too with how we're going about this.
Do you guys have any hypotheses that you want to test out? Any ideas of any changes you want to just play around with so far? Or is it you kind of already have an idea of what's working and it's just a matter of expanding on that?
I can go. I think one thing that we have been talking about, and it's actually point 2 that I wanted to talk about today, is this continuation of our marketing or sales experience, and further integrating that with our actual product, right? And will that actually have an impact? Because right now, right, like as far as like our acquisition goes, our acquisition is doing pretty well, right? Like from where we were 6 months ago to now, there's been quite significant growth. But now what's happening when you think about it, people come in through the website almost exclusively. That's usually their only touch point if they successfully sign up for the app, right? So they've seen the website, they were convinced by the website or the page, whatever they landed on. They signed up for the application, but then now once they're in the application, I feel like we still don't do enough to push people, not push people, but kind of incentivize people to actually take certain actions that might, lead to them or lead to a higher chance of them converting, whether that's actual promotion of offers through the app, right? Or making it easier for them to see certain offerings that we have. For example, like this personalized plan, a lot of people's touch points with it tend to be, so first touch point is usually like in an email, right? So if they miss that touch point, there's maybe a banner on the website or on some of the app pages, right? But once again, it's not something that's always, let's say, there for them. So let's say for whatever reason, it doesn't pop up on the day that they're not in the app, right? Like because of the way we've set up the banners, the way we're testing the banners, they sign in, it's showing them test A versus test B, and test A doesn't talk about the personalized plan at all. Versus what if next to, their free trial box, right? There's like a free trial box encouraging them to upgrade. What if within that or next to it, there's like, hey, did you know you can also build your own plan? and then, add an extra CTA that actually lives there for them, so that let's say they log in 4 times, maybe the 4th time they're like, oh, what does this button do, right? And they click it, gives them another chance to actually move towards the step that we've been seeing success on. And then, like even just integrating some of our, let's say like the product marketing, right? Like how do we actually use the product itself in a way that encourages people to not only return, like kind of this idea of building growth loops and usage loops through application-based triggers. Because right now people are, let's say, they don't care about another, oh, hey, here's some fun tips to use our, this 12th SaaS platform that you signed up to in 2 weeks. Instead, what if it's like, I know Tyler's discussed this before too, but here is a summary of XYZ. Would you like more insights like this? You can pick the insights that you want to receive on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, whatever it is, right? Maybe it's us building in some sort of referral bonus or referral program where it's like, hey, did you know if you invite your friends, you can get 60 minutes added to your account, whatever it is, or your free trial extended by 14 days, right? Like, I think there's different ways for us to do that don't rely solely on just pure traditional marketing, right? Like whether that's SEO or email, whatever it is, we can actually use our app platform because people are in there, right? So why not try to sell to them in the platform as well, right? It doesn't need to be an intrusive sale, but it's pushing them further down that funnel so that they have more reasons to actually pay. Like a lot of phone apps do this extremely well, right? A lot of mobile apps, because they have to, right? Because it's not like you're interacting with them through a website necessarily. Like your homepage or your dashboard or whatever it is, in many cases, ends up becoming your marketing page. It ends up becoming your landing page. So, as for our dashboard and our different app pages, how do we start turning those into useful pages that serve both a product use case and, like a marketing use case and a sales use case? And I think that's something for us to build out and work on. And it's not something that I necessarily have experience doing, but it's something that I am quite eager and interested in actually playing around with and testing out and figuring out how we can actually make that work, right? Like with the dev schedule and what's the best way to actually get around to implementing that as well.
Yeah, I can imagine that like after a user's actually, gone through the website and signed up, they'll probably never come back to that website again. It's probably just going to be immediately log in and go from there. So they're probably going to be missing a lot of, at least like deals like marketing focuses. But there's
exactly.
What else could they be missing by not going onto the website? Is there a lot of like software updates? Is that mostly on the website, or is that mostly on like the actual the application? Like where are you going to get like the quickest, or I guess the most easiest way to find out about software updates? Or is it through emails, or
like as in like product changes, or like
yeah
thing? We do both. I mean, for the most part right now it's mainly through like it's mainly an app, like whenever we do add features or add new things to the platform. But if the feature is big enough, like there's a saying in PR, for example, right? Like not everything is news, no matter how much you think it's news, right? Because obviously us, building product, you think every little thing that you do is like amazing, right? But the vast majority of users only really want to hear about you or hear from you when it's something that would kind of make them do a double take, right? Oh, that's cool, right? That's something that is different from, oh, like we changed this text box, whatever. Like there's like Evernote for like, or like some other apps, for example, they'll make this huge deal about, oh yeah, now like you can like type in 3 different fonts instead of 2 different fonts. And I'm like, okay, great. All right. Like sick. Super, super useful. Thanks for wasting my click. Right. So I wouldn't want us to end up doing that. So I think that, to your point about people not going back to the website, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Like, we do have a fair number of returning users just based off our analytics, even though that's just a 30-day time frame. But it's like, I think once people are in the app, generally speaking, they probably don't want to go back to your website or go to another page to actually find useful information, for example. So within the app, does it make sense? For example, we've built out these guides, or we've built out these comparisons, or we've built out some of these web pages that do convert for us and do drive value for readers. Are any of them also relevant to build out within the app experience itself, so that it's like a continuous experience, right? So for example, if someone comes in through a, transcribe your Zoom meeting page, would it not make sense then, let's say we've built out like a huge list of Zoom resources, to actually have that resource incorporated into their Zoom experience within Speak, right? So whether that's through product tours, whether that's through like an actual guide section, whatever it is. And it could totally just link back to the website, but to actually have, let's say, a page or a link or a button on the app that actually brings them back to that resource, right? And I think that I know we've struggled with this, but our dashboard, I think if we start trying to think about how do we make it a landing page for our users, right? A place that's useful for them from just the information it provides, but also something that keeps them excited about the product. And, how do we sell to them using this page that they see every single time that they land on our platform, right? Like, obviously, once they sign up, let's say, we would probably cut back on maybe some of the promo content and some of the pushier content that we send their way. But when they're not a customer yet, if we're going to lose them anyways, we might as well try to not lose them, right? Even if we are maybe a little bit, if we maybe annoy them a little bit.
At its core, it's just like build a good product, give a great experience. Hopefully, you win in the end. And like we saw, like I have a page here on the Google sheet where it's like friction points in the application, and I really like that page. Came out of a flurry of frustration, I think, one day, and a lot of things sort of came out at once. And I think one of it was like there was a person who was actually trying to sign up and like was so upset on intercom that they just like couldn't figure out how to pay. Like, we on a free trial didn't have a button that said subscribe to paid plan. You know what I mean? And it was so obvious after the fact. And she's like, how the hell do I get to the pricing page? And then on the pricing page, one of the functions wasn't working the way it should. And like, you almost lose a customer right there. Like I've been 95% through a checkout solution or something, and something they've done has pissed me off, and I did not purchase that thing, and I never returned back again. So like anytime we can avoid, those things, it's going to make an overall, good impact on what we're doing here. And then I think there are other things that, maybe we need a little bit more data on. And I would say something like LogRocket has helped us sometimes. Amplitude is another tool that we use for trying to figure out the events, and like it's not set up ideally, and we're not using it in its ideal way, but at least we can see, for example, some of the most highly trafficked or engaged with functions or pages on the site. And so with that, then we are helping us prioritize those pages over others. So as 値杲sort of talked about here, it's like every single person who signs up for the first time lands on the dashboard. The dashboard, not that great. It's okay, but it's clunky. It's too much stuff going on. And as 値杲said, there's two sides. Like either we, drive a function in that app that then creates value, or we educate. Like there's more that we can do there. And so we now need to make hypotheses around if we remove this from the dashboard, or if we add this to the dashboard, then this will happen, or as me and Nihal talked about this week, sometimes it's like maybe there needs to be a dashboard version that's for the first time sign up versus someone who's returning who actually has media. And our hypothesis is we need to split this experience because it's not tailored enough to what stage they are at the product. So there's things like that. And then I just trying to look at this closed loop, which is what truly matters here, though, is transcription accuracy. Insights are valuable. One of the things we're working on right now is improving the sentiment analysis. And then ideally, what we've talked about before is there's this opportunity for, say you upload a media, you leave speak, you get this sort of email, you get this delivery of valuable information outside of speak. So there's also ways that once that relationship is built, that we can actually create value outside of speak, which is obviously a good thing to do. So if there's any other quick things there, was like, yeah, we built the Zoom integration, hook into Zoom. Now everything's automatic. You don't need to go upload things every time. So another hypothesis that we've continued to have is the less manual actions that someone has to take, the more frictionless the experience is, the more they upload media into speak, ideally the more value is created. So there's like bigger hypotheses like that that we're then trying to build a bunch of different things around. I have many more, but I'll stop for now. I have a whole list.
Yeah, just I guess maybe just a final point, like with our dashboard, for example, I think, for example, I don't know if you've ever done this, but what if it was an empty state with like just 3 CTAs, right? Like for as an example, how would that impact, the user? Because I think we've done things like add stuff to our dashboard, but I don't know if we've ever just like stripped it bare and actually seen if anything changed, for example, right? Like what if we removed everything but these 3 things that we're trying to get people to do? Will that impact their experience negatively, for example, right? Or are there literally a bunch of things right now that we have on our dashboard that people have never touched, and in reality, there's no reason for them to be on the dashboard as a result of people never touching them, right? Because I think, especially with people's attention and just screen real estate, so like it's so valuable. If something doesn't like make an impact, should it really be there? And maybe just figuring out how do we look at it through that lens, not necessarily in like a reductive way, but just in a way that we only give people what is truly valuable to them. And then maybe over time, like as we have more capacity and our kind of design language and understanding of our users grow as well, we can actually get to the point where people can maybe just build their own dashboards, right? Where we won't even have to like do that for them. It's, hey, here's a bunch of widgets. Which ones do you want? Right. And then it populates in there.
Well, it's interesting. I know, for example, but then there's also this difference of like, so if you are a new user, guess what? You don't have any recent activities because you haven't done any activities. But then, as 𝗲𝗲 pointed out, and then I sort of verified through the actual engagement, is like a lot of people, once they actually do have media in, they actually use the recent activities widget to jump to their most recent file. So I think we also need to, just like everything, you sort of have to separate the people and who they are and where they are at in this life cycle within speak and using the product. Yeah, there's so much that you can do here. You realize it's like a whole other sort of muscle that you're pulling from just like creating in the beginning. In the beginning, you're just trying to figure out like, can this thing work at all? And now it's like a lot more trying to find these places to optimize. And I think we're doing a decent job, but I think we're not necessarily always prioritizing properly or maybe moving as quickly as we should, because it seems like, again, one of the things you hear, but you shouldn't always just listen to what people say, but it's just like the more experiments you can do quickly, learn from them and iterate on them, the more likely you are to make the impact that you need to see the business grow and be sustainable and viable and a good business. So okay, I feel fulfilled in that topic. Any other last notes on that?
I think heading into the direction of actually giving people more choice over how like things are set up is probably the best course of action. Like we saw that We saw a pretty big increase with the actual like custom plans there. And then like again, yeah, I think the best idea for the dashboard is to have people, choose what they want to see on the dashboard, have like different lenses and different widgets. And I think like that's kind of like the trajectory we've been going in over like the last, I don't know, 3 months or so. Even with like the whole like the folder management, the things are getting a lot more customizable. So just trying to think of like other things that can be more customized as well. Like we had the whole customizable keywords and all the extractions there, but I'm not entirely sure like how much that was used. I think it's like you gotta have to find a good balance of giving people choice, but then too much choice, they won't make a choice. Yeah.
I feel that when I'm trying to watch something at night and there's 9,000 options of content and you can't figure out anything, so we just lay in bed. But it's something we've seen is like people, we have this idea of like, hey, let people customize, but sometimes people just want to be given the right thing. And, we create a lot of cognitive weight by asking them to customize something, especially if it might be something novel, like they're doing with speak. And a lot of times we see someone just wanting to convert audio to text, and all this other stuff becomes a lot of thinking that you weren't necessarily prepared or hoping to go into. So Neil, you have one last topic here. We are missing our Dev Insider information on this. I'm not sure if you do want to bring it up, but we can touch on that though.
Yeah, maybe we can wait for Vassal to talk about it, since it is like this question was more for me to understand the limitations and like the different factors that might be holding us back on, let's say, adding certain features or adding certain functionality to the platform that we'd like to deliver on, and what actually goes into picking the solution from a technical perspective too, right? Because obviously we've talked about this multiple times, whereas without that technical insight, there's a bunch of times when I think we approach things with the mindset of, oh, this can't be that hard, and then when we actually talk to Vatsal, it's like, yeah, so in order to do this one thing, we actually need to do these 20 things first, right? Yeah. So yeah.
And just, I guess quickly what you're referring to, because I have spent, quite a bit of time looking at this and trying to figure out is this, basically how do you pick the right speech to text engine? Speech to text is powering so much of infrastructure today. And, even talking to companies who are sort of building like data lakes within, these big reservoirs of information for their companies, they have so many audio and video files, and they're literally applying speech to text to everything. And like generally, no, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because Vatsal knows much more, but like generally there's a couple baselines. And if you look at the benchmarks of what companies are looking at, or like sort of testing different speech recognition systems, what they're looking for, like one is this word error rate, which is, what is the percentage of words wrong in a given sample? And generally you're looking for things above 90, and a lot of them claim to be 90, 95 to 97, 98%. But once you put it in a true test, you see that that's not actually, generally once you see it like with crappy quality audio, different people talking, there's all those other things. That quality, that the accuracy really starts to suffer. A couple other things that we've really been focused on that are important is like some speech to text systems serve like a sentence up with sentence by sentence timestamping, which means you have an understanding of the timing of the sentence, but you don't have a timing of this exact word. And that actually has a lot of ramifications for what you're doing for analysis, or if you see like those audiograms where like Descript does them really beautifully, where it's like as the person says the word, it's highlighted. That's time by time stamping. That's enabling them to then play with that animation. So by having that data, it opens up a lot of possibilities. A couple quick last things that really I think make a difference is like speaker identification. There are now obviously systems like Zoom here. If they format it right, it's like who's talking when their like systems are really natively integrated. But generally in the end, what people are taking is like an MP3 or a WAV or an MP4 file, dumping it in, and then a speech recognition system is doing its best to understand who's talking when. So if that is not good accuracy, it really messes up a lot of the other things for you. And so those are, I mean, those are just a couple core pieces that are continually, we're getting asked about, that we've seen as challenges. And there are other factors when evaluating vendors, but it's actually in a way become a pretty democratized technology with pretty standard, outputs, some punctuation. Does it punctuate well? Does it ask questions, periods and question marks? Can you train it? Like there's a lot there. That's what I have much more to say, but I have faced my own pains and frustrations while looking at this experience. And one day in my own mind, where I would build my own speech recognition from scratch, it would be me building it. It would be many people building it, but that's a lot of maintenance. That's a lot of work too. And that's not necessarily, it's not easy. There's ways that, there's a lot of code out there that shows you how to do it, but it's a lot of work and it's a lot of maintenance. So it's not in our pipeline at the moment, that's for sure. I don't know if that helped at all. Yeah.
It's a lot of work that's better left for other people, and then you can piggyback on that.
You can't match, like, just if you look at say Amazon and Google, and you can't match the budgets that they have, the development talent that they have, and also the amount of data that's flowing into their system that then they're using it to sort of improve. But like you also see there's challenges, right? Like there were a lot of the original speech recognition systems were built for more short form, like sort of Alexa or Google Assistant inputs. And so they weren't really built for long conversational transcription. And that's where, there's opportunities. Companies like Speechmatics, DeepGram sort of came out and said, we're focused specifically on long form conversations and making sure that those are as accurate as possible. And so even within something that seems pretty, standard, there's nuances to it. And if whole systems are trained around long form conversations versus short form Alexa, Google, assistant responses, you can have a big difference in the quality there. And then cost. Everything is cost. How much does it cost? Generally per minute, but then you see other companies try to trick you and they'll do per second. And then you got to calculate then you got to calculate how many seconds. Well, everyone knows how many seconds are in a minute, but it's annoying. They'll try to sort of break your sort of mental model on it because you're used to saying per minute, and then they'll do it per second or per 15 seconds, and then make you do the math on everything there. So there's no easy answer. And from what I've seen, there's trade-offs with every speech recognition system there is today. And I think that's why people are looking for support. They're trying to find solutions. They don't necessarily know. There's a lot of information floating around there. Sometimes it's even a little bit out of date. And so they're looking for reliable vendors to help solve these problems for them. Okay. That's all. Sorry if I got anything wrong there. I did my best, sir. I'm good. We kept this short and concise today. I know it's been a long but short month. I'm glad to spend it with you guys. I'm glad to see some great progress here. Anything you want to say to the people before we wrap up February?
Go ahead, Neil.
It's a mute standoff.
That's too well timed. No, I mean, I think for anyone that does listen, and if they have any ideas or questions or things that they'd like us to talk about, or anything they'd like to hear about, whether that's speak related, startups related, right? And I guess maybe for you, like life of a business owner, right? Like I think it would be pretty neat, because we always love hearing, when we do get the occasional feedback and message from people that are following this journey. So
yeah, and to add on to that, anybody that does listen, if they ever want to actually join us for a call, more than welcome.
Nice person, Lauren. Nice person, 𝗍𝗲. Yeah, give us. We enjoy the feedback. We enjoy the love. We enjoy anyone who tunes in and has been part of this journey. So thank you so much. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll see you next week.